the Jared Goff signing, of course, and we'll talk about the numbers and the details and everything else as it goes down. But I gotta say, Colton, my first reaction when I saw it, and the guaranteed number, which is 179. I mean, is that right?
I think 170.
170 over the 4 years, which rounds down to like 40 something per in guaranteed money. Plus that signing bonus is also a big one. I think it's the highest one in history anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, I thought the guaranteed number would be higher. That's actually a little bit lower than I thought the Lions would have to pay for him. So my first reaction, Colton, and I want to get yours too, was this feels a little bit like a win-win, maybe for both sides. I think both sides walked away from that table thinking, hey, we got what we wanted here. I think Goff got more. The Lions spent more money than they were willing to spend on him a year ago at this time, way more. And you know that, like not even close. And I don't think he got probably what he would have dreamt of or what he maybe thinks he could have gotten if he'd have pushed this or tested the market, which is maybe fair. But I think both sides left it saying, okay, look, here's a 3-year window where we're going to try to win a Super Bowl. And there's a 4th year too if it happens to work out. But you got a guy now until he's 33 years old or whatever it is, and you got a 3-year window to win a Super Bowl. To me, that's like, boom, perfect. You're going to have to pay him what the market says, and I think this is right on the bottom of what they were going to have to pay him. He's still getting paid really well. He's the highest paid player in the history of the franchise or wherever the hell it is. So good for everybody, right? Like I felt like that was a pretty good all the way around deal for all parties. You're not locked in for like 8 years or something stupid. You didn't pay him like $60 million or something like crazy. You paid him fair. He was okay with it, and on we go. And to me, I thought that was perfect. I didn't really have any complaints with it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to say that Goff won just when you see the pure numbers.
Well, sure, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. It is a lot of money for quarterback, but it's also the going rate for a quality quarterback these days. And Goff is a quality quarterback. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You're either paying this dude or you're trying to move on and trying to find the next guy and maybe hoping Hendon Hooker is the next thing. And like, that's a dangerous game to play when you're this close to contention. So you pay the guy, you get him locked up, you put him on a deal that kind of, correlates with the other core players that you locked up this offseason.
Exactly.
And you let them, you open your window and you let those guys rock. Like that's what it was to me. Goff getting the money he did, that was not a surprise. Like I think there was a time where, maybe Daniel Jones was a good comp and you're like, oh, we can give him 45 mil if Daniel Jones is getting 40 from the Giants. After last season, that was really not feasible anymore. And especially this past season that they just had, like Goff basically had 2 Pro Bowl quality seasons back to back. Under Ben Johnson with this team, with this core in place. And that's not going to stop anytime soon, you don't think, just based on the way that they've kind of figured things out here. So if you got a quarterback playing at this level, you have to pay him. And these deals usually get done a year out of free agency. Goff's a free agent next year before this deal was done. So that's why they kind of got it done this offseason. Again, it coincides with Penei Sewell and St. Brown. Now you got these 3 core players locked up for the foreseeable future. You can just build around those guys now. That's what it was. That's why they wanted to get these 3 done this offseason, and that's what they did.
And these were the 3 big ones that we've talked about every year that free agencies come up during the Holmes era, in that people were, why aren't they making a shot at this? Why aren't they taking a swing at that? Why aren't they trading for this guy? Why aren't they doing this? A guy with a contract, Chase Young, be it that or someone else. It was literally for the last 3 things that they just did. Now, Aiden Hutchinson is probably the 4th, but we'll get that in a second. St. Brown, Penei, and Jared Goff were the 3 contracts that they had, no question about it. You've got to pay these guys. And like, to get them all done right now, to me, I thought they were going to get Amon-Ra and Goff done, and I thought they were going to have to wait for Penei. So I thought Penei was going to probably push that and test the market. What I didn't probably realize or think is that, like, he ended up using the same strategy that St. Brown did, right? Like, he's going to get another crack at it when he's younger, which is good for him. But he also took probably less than he could have gotten, I almost wonder, in some ways. That's a pretty good deal for the Lions, I think. You got, like we just said, Goff did not put a gun to their head and say, pay me. You got people chanting my name at Red Wings games. You better pay me more money than everybody in the building. You know what I mean? Like, there was no Lamar Jackson situation here. And there wasn't one because Jared Goff felt like they were going to take care of him, I think. He did not doubt that. And I just thought, the way that they structure that whole thing, because I was very curious, is it going to be like a 5 or 6 year extension? Because that was like, 3 years was the one that I kept landing on. If you give them the 4th, as long as you have an out after the 3rd, which they do, it's like a relatively 16.5, I think, on the dead cap after the 3rd year. like he gets the 70 plus in the signing bonus that he's earned. Everybody's happy. And you just showed your whole roster that you've invested in your best players, right?
Yep.
Like, man, that's got to be. They're going to be in such a good headspace, Colton, like going into the season because there are no questions. There's going to be nothing hanging over them other than like when is Aiden's deal maybe going to get done, and that's not really that big of a deal because they have the money to do it.
I think
And
the
now we're
Hudson,
not worried about that, right? No one's worried about any of that.
I think the Hudsons are doing just fine money wise. You know.
Yeah, right.
So,
But you still exactly right. They're
yeah.
not out eating out of a
House of Hutch is doing pretty well
cardboard
from
box.
what I
But
see.
yes, House of Hutch is doing just fine. But anyway, yeah, it's questions that we've talked about. Can they afford all these guys? Yeah, they can, and they're going to be able to. And then from there, things get more creative. But right now, perfect. What an offseason. This has been to this point, this has been about as good as it could get. I think they've nailed it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think this really, drives the point home. The Lions are trying to take care of their own. And so many of these players were asked, like, what do you think the message is after seeing, St. Brown and Sewell and now Goff, those three core players get locked up, and everyone's like, this is what we are. This is what we do. We take care of our homegrown players.
Mm-hmm.
If you prove yourself in this building with this regime that you're worth building around, we'll keep you. We're not just going to let you go. And that's something that Lions teams of the past didn't do. They let those core players in the 90s go. They tried to replace them. It didn't work out. Things fell apart. And that's the end of the Barry run, right? Like the way they're trying to build it this year and this with this specific, crew in place, they're trying to make sure this thing's sustainable for the long term. And that's what they're doing by re-signing their own guys, taking care of them, and making sure that they're Detroit Lions for a long time. So, yeah, I mean, I even look at Penei Sewell's deal. They could have waited because he does have, the 5th-year option. That was a possibility for them. But to me, it was like smart on the Lions' part to
fast as you can go. Yeah.
Jump the market with all these guys that are coming up. Same thing with St. Brown. I think there's probably more of an emphasis to get St. Brown done because he was giving them so much production on a 4th-round contract. It's like, all right, let's take care of this guy now. At the same time, look at the receivers that are coming up that are going to have to get paid. AJ Brown got paid right after St. Brown. Justin Jefferson's coming up. CeeDee Lamb. All these other receivers are about to get paid. So you beat them to the market. Beat those other teams to the market. Now you get your guy locked up. Those contracts are going to inflate the market. Make him look like a steal in probably like a year from now even. So, I mean, I think it was really smart on the Lions' part to get this done early. The only one that you can probably argue that they didn't get great value on is Goff. But again,
that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do. That's quarterbacks these days, man. Like, and again, Tua's going to get paid. Jordan Love's going to get paid. Trevor Lawrence is going to get paid. So a lot of these quarterbacks are going to look at Goff's
guys
deal.
Who've done far less than Jared Goff.
Sure, yeah. And all those guys are going to say, "Well, I want that.
I want more. Yeah,
I want more."
That much more. Yeah.
So like it's going to go down.
Yeah.
It's going to balance out over the course of that contract. The way they're kind of structuring it with some of these cap hits, it seems like it's going to be manageable for at least the next 2 years. 2026 is probably the year where it jumps up.
Yeah.
But again, you give yourself an out after 2027 with that team option on Goff's contract. So I think it works out in the end. You've got a nice 3-4 year window to kind of do some damage here and see how far you can go.
It's really rare that you have no-brainers like this, and these are no-brainer signings. Like, obviously, you wanted to re-sign Penei and St. Brown and Goff, and you're going to want to do it with Aiden. And there's some other guys you're going to want to do, too, that you're not going to be able to. But, there haven't been that many situations over the years where the Lions have had obvious no-brainers. You got to re-sign this guy. There's no question about it. On the roster, there's been a lot of cases where they've had those tough decisions to make because they've drafted, bad one position and then again and again and again. So it's now you got to decide between the guys. The cap has changed over the years, so it's hard to make these comparisons back to every other era. But I guess, Colton, you mentioned the early 90s, the 91 team is the one that stands out to so many people. And, when I went back and wrote about it in the summer a little bit and wrote about how Spielman's deal ended up falling apart, and it was because they just tried to be cheap and stupid and they tried to kick the can, and it wasn't anything more than that. It wasn't anything more than just trying to be we can replace you with a guy who's younger than you and whatever. You're not going to ever get one over on us. We're going to win every single negotiation. That was the Lions' mantra for the duration of William Clayford's ownership tenure. So to see Sheila Ford now in this situation where this is really the first time she's had to dole out and really make tough decisions. These are the tough decisions. These are the ones that get people hired and fired and all that sort of thing, the extensions. She and the Lions staff approached it with a creative like, hey, let's try to make this work for both sides. Let's try to get you paid as much as possible. And for two of those dudes, it's like, let's try to get it twice. Hell with it. Let's try to do it twice because you're so young. We're going to do it right now. I thought that was like to be creative enough to do that and not worry about like, let's just try to lay low and play poker here with these guys. Like they didn't play any poker. I don't think that there was any like mystery at all. It seemed like it was very collaborative from both sides on each. I don't know about Goff's, but with the two young dudes, like, man, that's never happened here. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the franchise, quite frankly. Every other guy, even Barry Sanders, they screwed around with his money the entire time he was here. And like, I just don't think that that's ever existed, that they made it that easy with their three best players. And the takeaway really for the players and everybody watching should be is they're trying to win a Super Bowl, period. That's it. That's what I take away from this.
They're trying to eliminate distractions, not have any talk. You look around the league and all these players are starting to miss OTAs because they want their contract extended or a new deal or redone. You don't have to worry about that here. They're taking care of their guys. These guys are all paid now. They're at ease. They can just focus on football. And that's what this is all about. They have a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. How many times can you say that in May, right, with this franchise?
Right.
So they're trying to eliminate every distraction possible, just shift the focus back on the game, and get this group ready to go. That's what this is all about to me, and that's why you make this move.